was actually originally slotted for 11 a.m. local time, but I think the league threw the home fans a little bit of a bone here, and they pushed it back until 1 p.m. local kickoff. I don't know exactly what went into that, but, give them some time to tailgate maybe. It's the Panthers and the Stallions. Birmingham, the 8-point home favorites in this one. Total sitting at 43.5. Forecast for the Heart of Dixie in this one, I have it at 77 and a chance of scattered thunderstorms. In the last meeting between these two teams, which we're going to go ahead, Zook, and throw up just the throwback footage of week 2 here. The Stallions started Matt Corral, but they used Adrian Martinez in an equal role. So the quarterbacks really split work all afternoon in that one. And we'll have to see how Skip Holtz will approach the quarterback situation in this one. I don't know. Again, these teams are guaranteed a third meeting exactly 1 week after this game. It'll actually happen in the same stadium in Birmingham. So I'm really not sure if there's a reason to play Adrian Martinez. Skip Holtz did make some comments in the post game after the loss to San Antonio. And his quote was, "I would love to play Matt." And that's something that we will strongly consider. But obviously, they hadn't talked about it yet. So I'm curious. I know I've sat here really all season and talked up Matt Corral about, when's the sit game for Martinez coming, as Skip Holtz referred to it. So we'll wait for an official starter to be named. The tough part about doing these live shows on a Thursday night is we're probably going to get depth charts later in the evening. So if you are watching this back on Friday, Saturday morning, whatever, go ahead and look for the latest news on Twitter or check out the UFL.com for that information. But I think, really either way here, it's not too much of a game changer, whether it's Corral or Martinez. It is kind of a weird spot for Birmingham. I feel like it's really strange to break this game down from a betting perspective in general. On a normal week in the UFL season, I would call for a pretty large bounce back for the Stallions here, but they are coming off their first loss of the season, right? So it kind of sets up that way, but this just feels like a scrimmage to me. It doesn't really have a game feel, and you can look at it as an NFL audition tape for a lot of these guys who are going to be getting invite to training camps, but as coaches, you can't really look at that. You have to take a sizable risk here if you're gonna start everybody that's impactful to your team in a spot like this. So there's no more $1,000 weekly win bonus like there was in the XFL last year. So that's even less incentive to play your starters. So I don't really know what to expect. I know it's really not going to look anything like this first meeting that you're seeing some throwback highlights of now. In this meeting, back in week 2, Birmingham goes, I think, 1 of 6 in the red zone. They were terrible. They were 2 of 10 on third down. Martinez fumbled right on the goal line. They were lucky to get it back. Matt Corral threw a pick late in the game, and they just kind of played with their food. And this team's a lot different now, right? They've developed offensively, and I guess so has Michigan. But Michigan started the season very strong with that win over St. Louis, and they played well against Birmingham in week 2. And then I think they had that game against San Antonio where it's probably their worst game of the season, and since then they've been on a 5-game winning streak. So a little bit of a roller coaster ride for both of these teams, but yeah, I think Birmingham is going to play better than they did in the first matchup. That offense has come a long way. I know they did hit that speed bump in San Antonio. I don't think it defines the offense. I'm more thinking it was a bad spot for this team last week. It's still the number 1 total offense in the league from a statistical perspective. And I'll go back to this time and time again. They've stayed extremely balanced. They run the ball 49% of the time. And I'm sure if you're Ricky Person or CJ Marable, you weren't happy with your performance last weekend, and neither were the coaches. They combined for just 16 yards on 9 carries. That's got to get better. And for Michigan defensively, 6 starters listed on the injury report early this week. So I do give the edge to the Stallions offense here. when it comes to the Michigan offense, I think they've got sort of a puzzle to solve when it comes to their starting quarterback position. And I've been vocal about Bryce Perkins ever since they signed the guy. I know he's become very popular with Panthers fans the last few weeks. And even if we're not really focusing on, okay, this week we're going to do everything it takes to win, and maybe you'd rather instead push all your chips in on the USFL championship game next week, it still makes sense to me to give Bryce Perkins a warm-up here. Without him, I really don't see Michigan's path to a championship in the UFL. I think they have to have him here. They are more than one player, of course. They're one of the most physical teams in the league. They're limping into this game a little banged up. Already lost Wes Hills a couple weeks ago. Now some more key guys. Matt Colburn, Marcus Sims, both listed on the injury report this week. I think they should both be fine. Sims has missed a ton of practices due to injuries all year, so I think they've kind of been just resting him throughout the week. And Colburn is limited, but, he did get banged up a little bit. He was not very good against Houston last week. 6 carries for 14 yards, and, you're going to have to lean on him a little bit as a team that likes to run the ball if you're going to go both Danny Etling and Perkins. And Mike Nolan even came out and said E.J. Perry should be off IR and available. So that could be a total monkey wrench into this whole thing. But it's Perkins or nothing for me. Michigan is the only team in the league who runs more than they throw the ball. They're at 50% run rate. They have mobile quarterbacks, like we said, with Etling and Perkins to get the job done. They just got to pick one and stick with that quarterback. I know Skip Holtz started this season for Birmingham hell-bent on this 2-quarterback system, and even he settled on a starter after Martinez did enough to earn the job. So now it's Mike Nolan's turn to not be a politician, just give one guy the start and ride with him, win or lose. Listen to the Bryce Perkins stat line. This is 3 games of limited action. 30 of 37, 343 yards, which is actually good for 11 yards of completion. He also has 17 carries for 144 yards on the ground. That's 8.5 yards a carry. So with 4 touchdowns in 3 games. Again, didn't even play the whole games. So he is literally the Panthers version of Adrian Martinez. Like, you could call him Martinez light at this point, and I would be okay with that comparison. People forget Bryce Perkins had 3 years with Sean McVay, and that's showing with that experience, one of the best offensive minds in football. So we'll see what they do, and if there's a path for Perkins to become the full-time starter. As far as Birmingham defensively, DeMarcus Gates has not practiced this week. Have to imagine they'll rest him for the rest of the regular season slate until they get into the playoffs. Not sure what the staff is going to do with safety Kenny Robinson. He's got to be in the doghouse after those 2 back-breaking personal fouls last week. You had the hit on Latimer, the hit on Akers on a 3rd and 26, gave San Antonio the ball right at the goal line. And we, again, learned from Skip Holtz this week on radio. Defensive coordinator John Chavis no longer with the team for medical reasons. So the Stallions have gone ahead and hired Anthony Blevins, who some of you remember that name because he had a perfect record of 0-0 as the head coach of the Vegas Vipers. He was hired after Rod Woodson got let go and then never coached a game because the Vipers went away. So he found himself back in the mix, which is great to see because I know we had talked about him and would he get his NFL job back? He's now the defensive coordinator for this playoff run. So the Stallions are going to be the pick for me here, Zook, but from a betting perspective, be warned, the Stallions have not covered since week 6. Who you got?
I got the Stallions. We're going with the ponies, baby.